Sitting by the Fire, a podcast on ancestral wisdom, medicine, heritage, and transformation by Anna Shoyom. Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to Sitting by the Fire. Today my dear guest is my colleague Gloria Tínú Ogunbadejo. And I am very blessed to be here in your presence today. And I would like you to present who is Gloria, who are you? Because I think I can tell this secret to the people who are listening to us. This is what I came up with because I think there is a lot I don't know about you. And this is why I would like you to present yourself.
Okay, thank you. And it's so wonderful to be here with you. It's a blessing. I'm honored to be sitting by the fireside with you. I'll make it very simple. I learn about myself every day. So I am the daughter of Olufemi Bolaji Emmanuel Dokun. And I was born in Sierra Leone in West Africa. I'm Nigerian from the Yoruba traditions, Yoruba culture. And I reside in the UK. I've been here for 35 plus years. And I am an ordained minister. I was ordained about, I don't know, well, a few years ago. And I'm also an ancestral lineage healing practitioner, and which has been an incredible gift in my life right now, and has opened up, doors that I never knew existed. And yeah, my background, I trained in counseling and psychotherapy, and I worked with women in prison for about 5, 6 years in the UK. I also worked at a place called, working with women from war-torn countries, which was a very powerful and intense piece of work. And I've worked with women who've been impacted by gender violence, very specific gender violence. So my work has been quite intense. And all the work that I've done in the past, I see how it has led me to where I am today. And many of those women, some of them are no longer living, but their spirit lives within me, and it informs all the work I do. I'm grateful to them every day. Um, I call their names, I remember them, because they guide a lot of what I do today. They live within me. So that's me in a nutshell. There's so many other things I could say. The other important things, I have two incredible daughters, who are young adults who have been the greatest teachers in my life. So um, yeah, that's me. What I can remember to say about me right now.
Yeah. There are many things that are coming in my mind. One, listening to you, as you said, you're an ordained minister, is like that you're really working with something sacred.
Yes.
We could say that, I think.
Yes.
Especially when you name these women who you've been working with.
Yeah.
And as I'm also working in trauma-informed ways as a psychosomatic therapist, I think that's like the meeting between two individuals from equals. It's like meeting with the sacredness that lives in the other person.
Yes, absolutely. I think thank you for witnessing that and honoring it, because that that's how I think at the minute. I think I go back. I've had many memories of a lot of the work that I did that I'd forgotten about. But since I stepped into this work, a lot of those sessions, those women, their lives, has come back to me. And those times we sat together in sacred silence. You know, a lot of the women who had come from war-torn countries, a lot of them were no longer even able to use language, words. They were that level of trauma, in that level of trauma. And I remember sitting with them, and we would sit for 30, 40 minutes in silence, but we were working together. We were in a space where it was holding just that connection that we all had, in that we were witnessing one another. We were comforting one another in different ways, you know. And I think about that now, and how spirit works, and how spirit was working then, that I didn't fully understand. But now I appreciate it, and I know how powerful that can be when people come together, when people share their heart together, which is something we're living in times where we need that so much. We need community. And community looks different in different ways, but one thing remains the same, in that when people witness each other, one another, and in whatever way they are, you feel it. You feel
Yes.
it, and it's so healing. You know, what we're doing now, even as I entered into the space with you, I immediately felt a sense of healing begin for me, that I'm sitting with somebody who we come from different backgrounds, our lives, you know, are different, you know, but what we're doing here together, there's an understanding about it, which also um, goes out to those who are listening and watching, and to me, that's everything. That's everything. So thank you
Thank you.
again.
I really appreciate it. I think it's together. Maybe that's the key in healing, in witnessing, in communities, like
Mm,
that shared quality of presence,
mm,
the possibility of connect either through words, either through music, either through silence,
yes.
touch, also, you know, like holding hands. That's
Yeah.
also another very sacred
Mm, mm,
thing when
yeah.
we are in difficulties. And doing a little turn in our thread, I hear you saying that you came to an understanding what you've been doing earlier when you started to work with the ancestors. Do I understand it well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So I think my question is, Gloria, what took you to open this gate to work with the ancestors, and how
Mm,
it changed your perception of maybe the world and the life? I could say that, but also what did you understand from your previous work?
mm. That's a big question, and which I have I have been answering in small bits over the past 3 years now, from the time I really started thinking about working with ancestors. It's not something I grew up necessarily um, having any knowledge about, intimate knowledge about. My environment, in terms of my culture and um, my homeland. You know, that working with ancestors is something that, you know, happens, but I didn't actively grow up in that. In fact, if anything, um, my understanding, or uh, how I socialized, and it was about not really stepping into that kind of world, because it clashed with being a Christian, or, you know, so that's was how I grew up. But but I always knew about it. And I just fast forward into how I sort of got into it, you know, because sometimes I think it's the same way as how I became an ordained minister. It wasn't something that I planned, you know, it wasn't, it, it, it happened to me, if you like, rather than me happening. And that's how I see this work too. I think when I think back, because I was trying to think the other day, how did I actually come into the work? And I think somewhere I heard Daniel Fall speak, and I was fascinated, you know, and as he gave a talk, he spoke some words in Yoruba, and that was like, whoa, you know. And so, but I loved everything that he said about ancestors, and a lot of it made sense to me. So I was curious, you know, and I thought, okay, let me see what ancestral medicine is about. Let me just peep in there and see. It's probably nothing that I'll be interested in. But I attended one or two.
It's very dangerous peeping in.
You know, I peeped in and I was pulled in. And so I went, took a couple of courses, and the more I learned, the more I was like, okay, this sits well with me. This makes sense to me. And I started feeling, you know, it was like some sensation within me. And I kind of understood what that meant, that there's something to this. So next thing I knew, I blinked and I was on the training. So, and I thought, okay, when I did the training, I thought, okay, I'll do the training and just that will be it, and I'll just keep going. But my ancestors, my people said, no, we've got you kind of where we want you now. So now we're going to try to, you know, open this up to you. And so that's how I came into it, and I've never looked back. And I think I'm learning every day what it means to me. And I I like to think of myself as dipping my toe in the water and then coming out. But then I did that continuously for a while, and my people said, no, you're going to have to get in there. Yeah, you know, there's no tiptoeing anymore. You have to get in there. And until you do that, you're not going to feel aligned. Um, and and so that's what I did. And from the moment I fully immersed myself in it, it's like I've been reborn, and I feel as if I've now become not I'm on the road to full alignment with my Ori, my inner guide, my divinity, my purpose. And of course this time in my life, I've entered my senior years. It feels right. It feels that this is the work that I'm meant to do, and they've been preparing me. All this other body of work that I've done has been preparing me for this work. Um, so that's been my journey. And I think the other thing that has given me is that I now this is work I'm now understanding that this is work that my forebears did. This is work that my grandparents did. I'm learning that. So this work is within me. It's not, and that's why it's not, I've taken to it so easily. Um, and for that, I'm deeply grateful, because I'm thinking, what if I didn't find out? What I can't even imagine that I could have missed this bit. I could just have been continuing to do all the things that I was doing, and would not, if I didn't have the wisdom and the understanding to be still and listen to what I was being told, and to have the um the patience, and to be humble, because it requires that. It requires being humble to come away from all all that how I'd seen myself, with my ego and all of that, for me to receive the information I needed to put me fully into the work, into this work. I just thought if I didn't have the opportunity to do all of that, gosh, that would have been sad. That would have been sad. And what a loss it would have been to me. Because now that I am in this work, I see the power of it. And also having children and wanting them to leave something for them to take forward. I feel very blessed to be doing the work.
I hear you. That's beautiful. Thank you. I think life works in a very mysterious ways. And sometimes there is guidance even when we feel we're not connected. Well, maybe sometimes maybe guidance come to connect us back to ourselves, and may look like a crisis on the outside. But when we can walk through it, that's something that I say, oh wow, I'm really grateful for it. It's so painful. I wouldn't like to do that, but as I'm here already, I can already thank you.
Yes. Yes. And it shows itself in so many different ways. And I think that's the thing that I found the greatest one of the greatest lessons for me, that sometimes we're looking for signs in, well, I speak for myself, in all, I don't want to call it all the wrong places, but sometimes the information comes in places that we're not looking at, or have dismissed, or we're looking, we've been conditioned to look in very specific ways for very specific things to show like we're being successful, or we're, all these things, these worldly things that we've been told as the signs of success, or what we're supposed to do. Whereas some of this stuff comes in very simple ways, in I always, my daughters always used to tease me that it it doesn't take much to make me smile, or laugh. I can hear the sound of a child, and for the rest of the day, I'm joyful. Or I see a rose coming out from, the concrete on the road, because nature is so powerful. Nature will do what it's meant to do. It'll find a way. And I look at things, as I walk, I see things in color. I see, everything suddenly has taken a different hue. And I mean, I've always noticed, things. I like nature, but everything seems, there's a presence that I'm conscious of so much more now. I look at I look at people's faces, and I make stories about what might be happening with them, and all these things. I'm constantly thinking of trying to put out into the world, good thoughts, in the hope that I'm receiving them also. I'm attracting that, because I just think that we're in so much pain, in the world now, that
we are collectively
yeah
processing a lot.
Yeah.
How did this new way of being, if I can name it so, in you rearranged your understanding, or what is it that you understood from your past work that led you here, that maybe cleaned a little bit, or took off some of your previous understanding with work with the women?
I think, having trained as a psychotherapist, and all that psychological work, which I don't denigrate in any way. But I think the biggest thing that was missing, and I started seeing that from working with at the Medical Foundation with women from war-torn countries. I started noticing that a little bit there, in that when I would run therapy groups, I used to tell them that for these women, I was going to prepare little sandwiches and I would serve them. And my colleagues, you know, therapists were saying, give people food in therapy? That's not how you do therapy. And I was like, well, that's how I'm going to do this therapy with this group of women, because as an elder, as an older person, offering them food, that's sustenance, that's I'm communicating with them in a way that they understand traditionally. And so I got a sense of this work even back then without giving it a name. So I think that's the thing that I would see as different, that the spiritual aspect of when we're trying to heal people who have lived through trauma, that part is hugely missing in the traditional therapeutic work. And I don't think I could ever, I mean, once a therapist, you always have that, understanding and how to work that way, but I could never work in that way anymore, because I see, uh, sometimes I say prayers to those people who I worked with, and I think I could have helped, if I knew this work as I know it now. So I just think that bit is missing, and how a lot of traditional therapists, and they frown at this type of work, or they see it as not being um so I remember one word that a lot of therapists used to use was that that's very woolly. That's not, it doesn't have substance. And I look back and I think some of it is just because they didn't understand, or their own fear about it. um
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the most obvious thing for me now, that psychological work, yes, there's room for that, like I said, but it's not enough, and it's
Mm.
not the only way of working.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that also shifted in me. Like whenever I do either I do some trainings with a stress releasing technique, a bunch of people, or I do a therapy circle or something like that, I realized that praying and asking for all of the present people to be held in this larger container that also connects us to everything that is around us, that is always giving me like a grounding that I know that I need when I am together with more people. And it's also what I perceive, that there is like an easiness in the nervous system, like something to just lay back and know that you're held in a different way. And I think that what you say, when we have the capacity to stay in silence with someone with a longer period of time, or what you said, and I love it, is to be still, listen. That is such an important quality that I think we need in all parts of life, to be able to need to listen really to the other person, and not just go and react or presume that you're saying that, so I'm going to enter very quickly and answer you. This is the answer. But like making space literally for the different layers of the
Yeah,
personality
yeah,
of the person.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But
And I was thinking, like, even the question of silence, there are different types of silence. And it's not the Freudian silence. That is a loaded silence, because you feel
yeah,
like you're being judged anyway, and
exactly,
so
exactly.
it's very different, and that, because I was thinking also, when you're working with people, and that's why it's important that be respecting people's traditions and cultures, and because sometimes it's a word, you can use a word, traditional therapy too. You can use words that, you know, people can, but I look at when I was working with African women, and I may use a particular word that they all understand. They all know what it means, and I'd see reaction in them. And so some of them who would come to me having had traditional therapy and would actually say that they didn't feel that they were understood, or they didn't feel that the person knew who they were. So, and that's from a cultural perspective. So I think there's so many, you know, layers to this. But the one thing that I'm very clear about is when you're working with people who are traumatized and who are in pain, or you know, a lot of this stuff that's remained, that hasn't been processed from the past, from lineages, that remains and that we carry forward into the next generation, all of that stuff. The traditional psychological way of working doesn't touch it at all. It doesn't touch it at all. So yeah, that and because I have trained as a therapist, so I can look back and see, you know.
Yeah,
mm,
yeah.
yeah.
That's so important what you're saying. I think there is one point where possibly it is recognizable that what someone is going through didn't start it with them,
Yeah.
but we don't know where it started,
Exactly.
right? Because we don't have the ways. Maybe I think I haven't grown up neither with framework or any ancestral reverence in the understanding that I practice it today.
Mm,
I think it's really, I'm coming from another direction,
yes.
leaving it to question. So also from the systemic psychologist point of view, so it's,
Mm,
there are many things that are part of one family. That's not only the 5 people
mm,
who live together or who live separated, like in mosaic families, but there are also a lot of impacts from where you grew up, how you grew up, and then the extended family, then other impacts, and so on. So it's really difficult to say what set forth one event that's still rolling,
yeah.
you know, in one's life. And I think that without bringing in maybe the unseen word, maybe that place where all those people who passed away dwell,
Mm, mm,
that's a really important part. And I just read today somewhere, um, I'm collaborating in a Spanish magazine, and I have to finish today an article which is about everything that is alive has consciousness. So I'm still
mm,
reading it, and of course it's a watered down version of what I believe, but I really believe that everything has a consciousness. And it is important because what if all the crisis that we are in is due to the unwell spirits all around us and dragging us into different
mm,
behaviors?
mm,
There
mm,
is no word to recognize them. There is no spirituality that would allow that the sickness or the missing balance could be understood as the manifestation of ungrieved grief,
mm,
unattended trauma,
mm.
things like that. So I
Yeah.
think the question is, what is your experience? How can the ancestral lineage healing or the ancestral medicine help people who are struggling with multiple traumas
Mm,
and have lived through really difficult life situations?
mm, mm. Thank you. Those are those big questions again. And it's different for different people. I can talk about myself, and loss and bereavement has played a huge part in my life. I came from a very big family. Um, and I've lost almost literally everybody over the years prematurely. From the first loss of my mother, and then my father, and my brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, so the losses have been so many and have been just one after the other that I didn't have time to grieve. At some point, I just stopped because I couldn't. And I think that has what led me into the work, without even being conscious about it, because I found that even when I tried to study, I did business management in university in America, which I absolutely hated the course because I didn't enjoy it, but I did it because it was like a solid um, degree, business degree. But I found that, and then I was drawn to do some work in loss and bereavement, and I thought, oh, okay, that was the beginning. And every time I tried to do something else, I would end up in some kind of work around loss or trauma, and it was just one after the other. And I remember when I was training to be a therapist, my supervisor said that the work will find you. You can run, but but so just unless you hate it, or something. But if this is might be where your healing is meant to take place. So, and that's how the journey has eventually brought me to where I am now. And I used to live in such fear all the time because it was like a sword, that sword of Damocles hanging over my head. Like I'm the next person to go. Maybe survivor's guilt or whatever. It was like, okay, if everybody's gone, what
Yeah.
am I doing here?
Yeah.
So let me just wait. And I've been through a period where I've had several operations, health issues, and so I kept thinking, okay, it's probably going to happen now, but it just didn't. And now but I was just so, I lived in constant pain from the loss because my family was also very close. And it was not until I started this work that that fear of death turned into something else. It was like, oh, I have all these people who are there, who are looking after me, who have been protecting me, who um, are keeping me well. And they haven't gone. They're not here physically, but they're all around, and I can call on them. So it was such a huge shift from this fear of death and, afraid to even imagine any one of them. And then all of a sudden I could think of them. I could, when doing the training, and the practice, I would call on them and they would come, you know. So
That's surprising, but they did.
I know, but uh, it was a real shock to me and such a joy, that I no longer live with this fear. That sword is gone. It's like whenever the time comes, it comes. But these are the people who are on the other side, and I can always call them to support me in what I want to do. So the healing was from me and going back to them, because there's that lineage and the loss and all of that, and then going forward, to my children and their generation. So people have to find where it sits for them based on what their, I hate the word issues are, but what they're dealing with in their lineage. But it's something that is alive. It's something that is real. It's something that is very powerful and healing. Healing is the word that I think of. Um, and just that fear that I lived with for decades, the fact that that has just melted. Um, I can't really explain how wonderful that feels for me. And I mean, I know for different people, their story, their narrative is different, and there are lots of other things that they're dealing with, you know, in their lineages, and may not be as smooth as that. But it's something that if you embrace it, or you, because it's not for everybody, not everybody, you know, believes in it, or some people actually find it quite it's not particularly useful to them. So, and that's, you know, and that's fine too. So
Yeah.
I can only speak about myself, and people I've worked with that I've supported on their journey, that it has been uh, the healing aspect has been very intense, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. No, I hear you and I agree. It's not for everyone,
Yeah.
and it's okay. There are so many ways to find our way. So life is a giver of gifts, a taker as well, but also a giver. So there are many ways to connect. And
Yeah, yes, definitely.
I like to pay attention to somatic signs. I'm a very
Mm.
body person.
Mhm.
And sometimes I talk to people and they ask what I do, and of course I always speak first about my therapy things,
Of
and
course.
because that's like more understood. But
Yes, yes.
since I was 44 this year, and since my birthday, I was like, okay, I'm done with hiding. I am a ritualist as well. So there's a claiming in that, and there is a beautiful having my back in the invisible world, which I love, but it's still
Mhm.
very that's a very sensitive spot, because
Yeah.
of course I'm afraid not being accepted as a professional.
Yes, yes.
And I am sitting with that. But sometimes there are beautiful encounters in the most unexpected ways,
Yes.
where I just started to talk with someone. Like yesterday, we went with not horseback riding, but walking with horses and talking
Mm.
and just being their presence. They are beautiful beings and really great for the human body to be close to the bodies of horses.
Mm.
The huge heart physically, so physiology
Mm.
that creates a large electromagnetic field, and it helps the body to heal.
Mm.
Beautiful studies of that. And I started to talk with one person as we were walking one horse in the forest,
Mm.
how she is and what happened with them and so on. And in a moment we were talking about ancestral work, and there was a moment where both of us started to have like goosebumps, like this, and I said, there is something. So we will continue to talk, but
Mm.
I think this is one of the gifts of stepping onto one way or another, some
Yeah.
way of recognizing that that will belong also to this invisible field,
Yes.
that sometimes we perceive something that we don't know what it is.
Yes.
There,
Yes.
it's there, and it is undeniably asking for attention.
Mm. Mm. I like that. Yeah. I'm curious when you said that your concern of not being accepted,
Mm, mm,
was it like from a religious perspective, or family, or
mm. More like professional perspective.
okay, okay.
I have an imposter syndrome, so sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off. So, but
I can
yeah,
relate to that.
I'm sitting with it, and yeah, because I'm also having more like a holistic perspective or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
integrated perspective.
Yes.
It's like also embodying it before I do speak about
Mm,
it, or I
mm,
take it somewhere. And I think this is for me what being authentic means, that
mm,
you do the work first on yourself, and then
mm, mm, mm.
the others.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that, and this is why I love to be sitting by the fire with my dear colleagues, because there are some personal perspectives that maybe we never talked about. And
Yeah,
for instance, your own journey that
yeah.
is blossoming through the ancestral
Mhm.
work. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, yes, it's not something that we ever imagined we're going to do. It's something that when we encountered it, it was like an aha moment on various levels, and saying that, okay, I have tried this, many other things, but here is something that I've been always looking for, and I was not even aware of that I was looking for this.
Yes, absolutely. I can relate to that so much because, like I said, when I became an ordained minister, I was raised as a Christian. Not in there was no dogma. It was just, it was more about right and wrong, being kind to your fellow human beings and your environment. So, but there were Christian traditions and all of that. So so I know this part of this ancestral work was not something that gelled with that. But from the minute I stepped into it, it was like, I like to say it's like a light switch, a switch. This is like my DNA was switched on, and which let me know, one, why I was attracted to it. And even though I was very tentative, I didn't jump into it, was like, that kind of thing. But that was not satisfying. And until I actually stepped into it fully, then it was like, oh, okay, this makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I embrace it fully. But then I also knew, because people were saying, well, why don't you integrate it with your traditional way of working, like you were saying? I said, but it's taken me a long time to put down my therapy hat, because when I started training, every time I'd go into a situation, I went in as a therapist. And,
Yeah.
and so yeah. So I had to separate that because I'd been practicing for, a couple of decades then. So, it was like every time, oh, I can work with that person. I know exactly what they need. So I knew I had to separate from that. I had to separate from a lot of things in order for me to know fully, fully embrace this work, fully understand it, fully know what it means to me, keep it clean, if you like, until I understand how I'm going to understand it. And now that I have, I can pick those parts of me, the other trainings I have, because I trained as a coach. There's lots of other work that I've trained in that I can draw from, but this is the core piece of work. This is what I'm working with, this ancestral healing, which I absolutely love. And
what is it, if there is? I may not be, but maybe there is something that you can say, oh, this is what I love most.
It's just the knowledge. It's about the connection with my people and my identity and not being alone. So all those things, which I've struggled with over the years, identity in terms of I didn't fit here, I didn't fit there, that kind of thing. And this, I know exactly where I fit. I have, there's a calm about it when I engage with it. I have my people around me all the time, which is a different feeling because, before it was like, oh, anybody who has died, if you have them around you, that's you should be scared of that. Or I don't feel that. I'm happy. I'm happy. And so it has given me so much, but even more than that, it's given me the capacity or to be able to support other people in their journey, which for me has always been, working, service to humanity. All my professional life, it has been about that. So this is just another, for me, a much more in-depth way of supporting us, and those are just gifts and blessings. I mean, it's endless what you get from that. So I
Yeah,
don't know if that answered the question, but
no, I think you did. And I think especially what you're highlighting to me is that it's an ongoing practice.
yeah.
It doesn't really have an end, because once we are cultivated the repair, it's really about being in contact and in relationship. And
Yes, yes.
and nourish those relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think this is the missing part for many of the practices, the spiritual part, that we don't identify with religions. If you do, that's beautiful and that's good. For me, is also like I do identify more with the Buddhist practice or meditations, or also dancing, so bodily meditations and so. This is something so natural, or at least it was for me, because it's not, my people were not asking for big things. They were asking for blowing the wind.
Yeah.
A little bit of sand from the beaches where you live. Remember us. Notice, and yeah, it makes me emotional because sometimes I live so busy days that I forget that. So when I speak about them, it's like, oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you. There is a difference walking in a room alone and walking in a room with your people around you.
You know, it's like I always think about that thing. Who was it? I think it was Maya Angelou who said, when you go somewhere, you know, go with all your people. Go into a room, you know, with the people who have loved you, your ancestors. You go and I always think of that. You know, that sticks with me. That when I go somewhere, I'm thinking, okay, my papi is here, my grandmama is here, my sister, my uncle, you know, my brother. Someone, what would he say? And they're all, and it really feels. My gait is different. I feel like I'll be protected, and somebody once said, "Isn't that just imagining it, aren't you?" Maybe it is, but that works for me. That's fine, because I'd rather imagine that than imagine I have got monsters running around in my head or something. So, that can't be a bad thing, because I know, you know, my people. I know a lot of who they were. You know, they were artists. They were educationists. They were all kinds. They were creative people. So all of that is running through me, and in some form or another, and it's very comforting. So it's just like faith. If you have faith, faith comforts you. You know, whether it's tangible, whether you can see it or not. So everybody has, there are many parts. I don't say this is the only one. That's, you know, no. But this is the one for me. And I feel very blessed if I'm able to, like I say, walk with somebody else for a short journey, you know, which I have been in other parts, other work I've done, you know, supported people for a little while as they go on their own way. And this is another thing that I've been given. And I will, let me take the opportunity to thank Ancestral Medicine as well, and Daniel for, because, you know, sometimes it's easy to forget, you know, that, okay, how did I actually come into this thing? And that was the door. And so I'll be forever grateful. I always have a prayer for him and his team. So yeah. It's given me the opportunity to sit here with you. So
Yes, I feel very blessed for the gift that this connection with you, with all like my colleagues and with Daniel gave, with Ancestral Medicine, with the team at Ancestral Medicine. So what would be something like a message or a sum up that you would offer for someone who's, maybe this is the first time they come ancestral healing?
I would say, if it's something that you're thinking about, it's if there's any curiosity that you have about it, that's an invitation, because it just doesn't come out of the blue.
Yes.
There's something that in the recesses of your mind, or maybe your people are trying to talk to you, or try. So if you have any interest in it, just explore it, you know. And you may get, you know, depending on your own background and, you know, religious and all that, you know, it may require for you to do it quietly. You know, you don't have to, because some people say, well, I told a relative this and they jumped all over me and they made me, you know, they shut it down, and some of that is from people's fear, you know, of what they don't know, and what we've been socialized into. Some of it, you know, in certain cultures is the colonialism that has, you know, left its mark on, you know, traditions and things of that nature. And so sometimes it may require for you to do your own work quietly, because it's for you. And but from someone who has embraced it, and again, I will say it's not for everybody. So, but find your way, trust. Once you have some curiosity about it, to me, that's an indication of to just search a little bit more, and see where it takes you.
Let's go on a quest. Curiosity.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for accepting my invitation and being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for everyone for accompanied us through this sitting by the fire, and we'll be back. Bye.